Mafia 4 development has started. Game to use Unreal Engine 5. We might all be waiting with bated breath for the GTA 6 official trailer, but that doesn't mean we can't set our sights on another franchise, specifically Mafia. Arguably a classic series, Mafia has been capturing the hearts of wannabe gangsters since the early 2000s. So much so that whenever hopes of a Peaky Blinders game rear their head, everyone says it needs to be like Mafia. It's an iconic template. That is why the news that Mafia 4 is in development is a cause for celebration. The 2K games that will be created using Unreal Engine 5 to the surprise of absolutely no one. It offers such crisp, sleek graphics few other engines compare to it, even more so since the Unity controversy. That being said, while all evidence points to Mafia 4 coming to a console near us in the future, there are no images to support that theory. Only a LinkedIn job posting that fans are certain is about Mafia. Unfortunately, as is the way with stories such as these, the job listing has now been removed, seemingly because the position has been filled. Despite not being able to see the listing for yourself, fans are taking the news as gospel, conveniently ignoring the layoffs that happened last year at 2K. I cannot wait for this game. I grew up playing Mafia 2, and I always have a special place in my heart, said 2012 Fly By Night. Another user allowed their enthusiasm to run away with them, saying, imagine if they add a nemesis like Shadow Mordor system, but with mob bosses, etc. Like you take over the
Hmm.
city, but some random crews come in and try to attack and take over your properties. It'd give players something to constantly do after the campaign is over. Kind of like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Um, because you always had the ballers trying to take over your territories.
Oh yeah,
Um, in the
I remember
words
that.
in the words of a great baboon, it is time. Fandoms are fed up with waiting, even when they know it's worthwhile for the end result. We've seen that with Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, and how fans believe the DLC is further proof that the game launched too early. Um, so, you were the one who wanted to talk about Mafia 4. Um, what did you want to say about it?
Well, I mean, it's something just to understand for while it's still in development. And we did talk about it many months, if not a good year and a half ago, for a mafia related type of game because I did talk about the history of the mafia up here, the five families of New York and all. And yes, they're no longer in power they used to be, but they still have some kind of influence in certain other things like sports, like UFC and boxing and stuff like that. So the point is that it's I heard good things about Mafia. I've always wanted to get the trilogy. I never really played the games. I will admit that. But I saw a trailer of it. I saw the game playing of it. It looked good, and it's got a good resemblance on how what the Mafia, especially the five families here in New York City did during its height of its power stage. You want to call it like that. So it's it's something that hopefully that when Mafia 4 about to release, soon, hopefully if anyone hearing me from 2K Games, this have like a decent sale for the Mafia trilogy to be on sale because I see them on sale for like $30, 20 for at most, and that's about it. I can't afford to after a while, but if they ever have it on sale, put it down to like $15. That'll be the best sale ever.
Well,
So it's
I don't know if it'll ever be that low. We are talking about three games in one.
yeah, and all remasters too, by the way, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, they were remastered for Xbox One. But seriously, you didn't even get Mafia 2 when it was offered for from Games with Gold?
I can't remember that though. I don't remember. I think you missed that many years ago.
Okay. I used to
Yeah,
have it. I don't know if I still have it now. But I did beat the campaign. Um, yeah, so I mean, if we were to go through, let's just say Mafia 4 was in development. Where do you think Mafia 4 would take place? It would obviously take place in the 70s. Um,
hmm
what gangster area do you think would have a lot to do? Like they kind of use New York for Mafia 1 and 2. Chicago in the 60s just wasn't that interesting. I tried to get into it, even though they had Vito from Mafia 2.
yeah.
Um, it just wasn't interesting to me. I tried to get into it, I just couldn't when I rented it from GameFly. But where do you think Mafia 4 would take place if it was going to happen like in the 70s?
Well, I did some research on different like factions, mafia groups, different gangs and stuff like that. So if they can do like a all in one, if a nice big story of it all, they get spread out from Chicago to New York to LA, and then even Brazil if you want to bring in certain gangs in that area too. So like an international trade of sorts, and they they create the conclusion to the mafia, and then and they could do some kind of story from like 1970 to like 1990s when it got the Gotti John Gotti was arrested during the late 90s thanks to here in New York City, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he cleaned up the mafia groups and all. So if they could like make that based on a true story type of sense, to wrap it all up into conclusion, but to create like an ending, a true ending, like different endings on different um types of gameplay you do in Mafia 4, that would be great. But it would be one of the biggest games to develop though.
What about Shadow of Mordor though? Like where they take the enemy system, like different bosses. Like if they killed you, bosses got stronger, so they were going to be harder next time you fought them. Um, what if they did that, but like instead of bosses, it was like mob bosses. Like if you try to take down a certain mob boss and you fail, that mob boss is going to be stronger next time.
Yeah, because obviously they defend their turf or to defend their operations. So it's a tighter, more deadlier type of grouping. And my bosses, if they can avoid assassinations, avoid hits on themselves and stuff like that, so it makes them more powerful in a sense. So that'll be good Shadow Mordor type of effect as well. So yeah,
Yep, I agree. I agree. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I wish I could say more about it in great detail, but I did try to read I didn't read the Pacific book yet, but there's this book called The Five Families, the rise and fall of resurgence of the five families here in New York City. So I got the book for about, I would say about 15, $20, the hardcover or the paperback. But
yeah.
I misplaced the book. So I got the Kindle edition the other day that was on sale through my credits and all. So I got it for about $2, the Kindle price, because I already have credits to under my account to buy these type of books and all, or ebooks they call them. So give me a few months and I'll read up on it and see what's it like back in those days. Yes, I did read newspapers, newspaper news, like from the Gotti family, or they call the Gambino crime family was a big name on the newspapers back in the 2000s. So from like year 2001, 2000 until like 2005, I was reading the newspaper of like Newsday, Daily News. They've been like talking about the crime families since not every day literally, but like every few months or whatever. So I've been catching up and also to understand more about this mob culture, because the reason why mobs are in charge or always have been in place because they're supposed to be the mediators between the law and the people in a sense. So Joey D'Angelo, if I could say more about him, he was part of the Gotti Gambino crime family, want to call them. He was mentioned in on the radio show. They deleted the information. This is based on my memory, guys. There's this specific radio interview between Joey D'Angelo and Curtis Silva. Curtis Silva, he's the leader of the Guardian Angels in New Jersey, if not here in New York City. So these guys were in the same room together back as early as 2014, and talked about, and Joey D'Angelo was promoting his book at the time too. So some strange reason, a coincidence, years later, I try to look back on that coverage. I don't see it anywhere on the internet anymore. So if I'm talking out of my ass at first, and that's why I can't prove it anymore, because there's no record of it. So the point is that, like, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, guys, and in its mafia culture. And it just was the fact that Julian kind of cracked down on that shit in the 1990s, 2000s. It's still resurgent. It's always going to be resurgent. So it's just be careful out there, guys, who you deal with, and you know understand that not everyone's going to be your friend. So that's
Yeah.
all.
Well, the story of the first Mafia game uh can is kind of like that. But and that's actually one game I'd like to play because while I couldn't get into Mafia 3, I always wanted to go back and play the original Mafia. But I
Yes.
do remember one problem with Mafia where it was just so dark. Um, this might have been just because it was on PS2 So this was like not a definitive edition. This was the first launch of it. It just was so dark, so hard to see, and like the first level is like you're driving through. I think for both games took place in New York. Um, so you're driving through something that looks like a New York street with another car chasing you of mobsters from a different gang, and um, yeah, they and it's just so dark because like you're just trying to drive, doing turns, trying to get lose this car that's following you, and it's but at the same time, then you become a member of the mafia when that mob comes after you the next day while you're doing your taxi job. That mob boss you help said, if you ever have a problem, come to this restaurant. We'll help. We look out for those who help house out, who help ours, and then you get fired, and then you join that family, and then you turn your back on that family, and you get killed in your old age. Um, so yeah, that's but like I said, that's the only thing with Mafia. I'd like to try the first game. I was able to play the second game through the campaign, so all the way through the
Hmm.
campaign. So yeah, and I would love to see the Shadow Mordor system in Mafia 4.
Indeed.
Ready to move on?
I just want to say one more thing about the story that I mentioned with the Carter Silawa and Joey D'Angelo. I have no proof of what I said just now, but take it with a grain of salt if you want to call it like that. Make sure that to find out, hunt the truth, as in Halo 5 would say. The Vince promo. I've always been intrigued by why is it that people commit crimes and all, and especially the mafia themselves, and they go back as far as back as like 1,000 years, 500 years ago in Italy and all. So it's something just to understand about the culture behind them, and always keep your eyes open on what you see, and because you may never know, they might never be there again. So I can't find the book, I cannot find the audio or even the interview, that video. It's crazy, I'm not. It gives me the fact I'm schizophrenic. That doesn't mean nothing's real. Or in my perspective, it's just that at the right place, the right time, with right set of connections. You never know. So
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's kind of funny you bring that up. In Mafia 2, the first level you play is as Vito working fighting on part of, I think, of the American army, forced to do it after committing crimes. And it's funny, you're about to be killed, and then the Italian army is told by a mafia boss to stand down. And Vito goes, "Why did the Italian army stop fighting? Because so and so told them to." He was that powerful.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, so you never know. I mean, like I said, all I know is what I've seen in the Mafia games. So,
Yes.